Magandang araw mga minute na kain ka. I am Patrick John Katutan from 3CRI-A1-11. At ipipresent ko po itong physical evidence and chain of custody. So, bago tayo magsimula, lesson objectives. Discuss the way to collect physical evidence and trace evidence. Identify ways in proper tagging and leveling of evidence. So, table of contents. Slide 2. Proceed po tayo. Physical evidence and chain of custody and difference between physical and trace evidence. So, physical evidence in a crime scene, forensic experts look for physical evidence. The evidence such as objects found in the crime scene is known as physical evidence. The example of physical evidence are fingerprints, footprints, handprints, tide marks, cut marks, tool marks. So, marami pang iba. So, these are collected carefully and examined in the laboratory using forensic techniques. The collection of physical evidence is vital for crime investigation. Physical evidence could be described as combination of trace elements, blood, splatters, semen, visual understanding, voice recordings, and criminal records. So, much can be learned about what happened at a scene. Truth trace evidence such as whether an item or body was moved or whether someone was assaulted from behind or the side. So, trace evidence can include a wide variety of materials, but the most commonly tested are hair, fibers, paint, and glass. So, less frequently added items are soil, cosmetics, and fire debris. So, some laboratories will consider fire accelerants as trace, and others will include them in chemistry. So, even though the same tests are conducted in both laboratories. So, to analyze physical evidence, forensic chemistry draws on chemistry principles and concepts, investigating the physical and chemical properties of a substance is central to forensic chemistry. Without an appreciation for these properties and the scientific method, forensic chemistry would not be possible. And crime reconstruction paves that way for justice. With the help of technology, it becomes easier to analyze evidence. Furthermore, new technology like closed-circuit cameras, voice recorders, latest software, etc. are being used to collect physical evidence. So, sa chain of custody, so, in court, the chain of custody documentation is presented by the prosecution in order to prove that the item of evidence is, in fact, related to the alleged crime and that it had been in possession of defendant to establish reasonable doubt of guilt. So, the defense looks for holes or acts of mishandling in chain of custody to show, for example, that the item may have been fraudulently planted to make a accused person appear guilty. So, a chain of custody in criminal case might be, so a police officer collects a gun at the crime scene and places it in a sealed container. Second, the police officer gives the gun to a police forensics technician. So, third, the forensics technician removes the gun from the container, collects fingerprints and other evidence present on the weapon, and places the gun along with the evidence collected from it back into the sealed container. And fourth, the forensic technician gives the gun and related evidence to a police evidence technician. And fifth, the evidence technician stores the gun and related evidence in a secure place and records everyone who accesses the evidence during the investigation until the final deposition of the case. And last is, items of evidence are typically moved in and out of storage and handled by different people. All changes in the possession, handling, and analysis of items of evidence must be recorded on a chain of custody form. So, next slide po tayo. So, make your own graphically organized chart showing sequence of collecting physical evidence. So, gumawa po ako ng sarili. So, ito po yung aking una. So, collecting evidence. And, syempre, ipaphotograph po natin yan after collecting. And, second, seal the evidence. And, third, tagging and leveling the evidence. And, fourth, give to laboratory. So, pag pag naisil po pala natin, syempre ilagay po natin doon yung ating pangalan, kung sino po yung nag-collect nun, kung sino po yung officer na kumuha nun. Pang last po natin, examine by forensic technician kapag naipass na po natin sa laboratory. So, gagawin po nila, yun nga po, magkakatak na po sila ng examination para sa evidence na yon. So, yan po. Yan po ang aking on graphically organized chart. So, proceed po tayo sa ating next slide. So, describes what will happen if the collected evidence were contaminated by your own hair, saliva, and fingerprints. So, if this happens, the case must be difficult to solve because your own hair or any parts of your body had contaminated the evidence. So, evidence may be invalid in court presentation or it's hard to identify the identity of real suspect. So, be careful to handle the evidence. So, next slide po tayo. So, this describes why establishing a proper chain of custody evidence is very important. So, the chain of custody or evidence transmittal letter is a very important document that must accompany your evidence when submitting samples to laboratory for analysis. This is especially true if the case goes into litigation. So, to preserve the integrity of the evidence and prevent it for contamination, which can alter the state of the evidence if not preserved, the evidence presented in court might be challenged and ruled inadmissible. So, yan po dahil po na kaya sobrang importante po ng ating chain of custody. So, balik po tayo sa front page. So, lesson objectives, na-discuss po natin ng ways to collect physical evidence and trace evidence. And na-identify po natin improper tagging and labeling of evidence. So, magandang araw po, Mamanot na Cuenca. God bless po.